Hola a todos, ¿cómo están? Pues tenemos una versión más de nuestros viernes o de fines de semana de inspiración. El día de hoy, pues igual estamos aquí, Gabriel, Kevin y yo reunidos. ¿Cómo están, chicos?
Bien, ¿cómo están ustedes? Aparte de lloviendo por todos lados.
Sí, aquí también está lloviendo. Yeah, here is raining as well.
It was raining here earlier, thunder and lightning, but the sun came out right now. So
Summer is leaving.
yes.
Bueno, pues para este fin de semana escogimos un par de películas que tienen una criatura en común o diseños en común, por así decirlo. Es una criatura o un monstruo, o bueno, lo llamo criatura porque justamente es parte del título de una de las películas. Entonces, bueno, pues ha sido desde que salió, desde que se dio a conocer esta película, desde que se empezó a ver, pues ha tenido mucha, ¿cómo llamarlo? Como ha inspirado a muchos otros directores, guionistas, actores, diseños, mercadotecnia. Bueno, ha sido por todos lados podemos ver este diseño. Y bueno, justamente platicaba con Kevin que íbamos a platicar para este fin de semana, y él decía, bueno, pues algo que tenga que ver con películas de verano, porque justamente pues ya se nos está terminando, ya se está yendo el verano, y sin querer pues le decía o propuse esta de Creature of the Black Lagoon, ¿no? Que en español no estoy segura que me sepa el nombre en español de manera correcta.
El monstruo de la Laguna Negra fue en México y la mujer y el monstruo fue en español de España, porque España es muy creativa.
Ah, ok, bueno. Pues esa es la película con la que vamos a empezar a platicar. Dice Kevin que para él es una película como mucho de verano. Y yo le decía, bueno, ¿y por qué es de verano? Platica. No, pues porque están nadando. Ah, bueno. Están en una laguna. Ok, está bien. Lo bueno es que pues encontramos este tema para nuestros viernes de inspiración. Y pues bueno, vamos a comenzar. So I have here the poster of Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Okay.
And yeah, let's start.
Yeah. 1954, Universal Studios. 3D movies were a big thing in the early 50s, and the Creature from the Black Lagoon was 3D. I think all three of them were. There was the original and then two sequels. 54, 55, 56. And it was very, very difficult because so many things were shot underwater in 3D, and it was a big, cumbersome two-camera setup that they had to use back then. So it was not an easy thing for them to accomplish. Nor was it easy to do the title character. It was kind of a big undertaking to create the costume for the creature.
Yes. So so basically the story, it's
the story. There's a legend of a kind of a missing link between aquatic life and between fish and people, which kind of doesn't make any sense, but okay. And in South America, in the Amazon rainforest, there's a legend of this creature that's like a man, but he lives in the water. So scientists basically go down and they find out that yes, there is one. There's one left alive, and they find him. But interestingly enough, before they go, what kind of solidifies their idea to go down to South America is that one of the scientists discovers a fossilized claw of the creature sticking out of a hillside. And he does what every good scientist does if you found a fossil like that, is he takes a pickaxe and he chops it off, and this is great, and he just leaves with it. There's like a whole creature inside that hill, and instead of like digging away, he just chops it off, and that's enough. That's all I need. But anyways, that sets everything in motion, and so all the little group of scientists head down to South America to look for what they believe is going to be either other fossils or, hopefully the real deal, and they find the real guy.
Okay. So, bueno, entonces básicamente la historia es que es un grupo de científicos. Uno de ellos, como dice Kevin, encuentra un fósil y se estaba burlando porque dice que justamente, dice como lo que haría cualquier científico, le cortaría como el pedazo y se lo lleva y dice, sí, encontré algo, ¿no? En vez de que lo desempolve, lo saque todo, lo descubra todo para ver qué es. No, se lo lleva y entonces, bueno, deciden ir a Sudamérica para ver si encuentran realmente pues la razón, la criatura, ¿no? Que de esta parte que él encontró y que se llevó. Entonces esta es como la principal, donde empieza a desarrollarse todo. Justamente también decía Kevin que una de las cosas más interesantes de esta película o de esta producción pues fue justamente crear el diseño que iba a ser al protagonista de la película, ¿no? Tengo también por aquí algunas imágenes que nos mandó Kevin de pues el diseño de... I have here the pictures of some of the design, like the sculpture. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna show it first because I have it right here. I'm gonna put Millicent holding one of the sculptures. Mm-hmm. And well, she is very important for this of this part of the design. No, she's like the main person, I believe, that did the design. No.
That's I mean, to jump away from the story just for a minute. Yeah, there was a couple of people involved in the creation of it. One of them being Millicent Patrick, who was an artist, like a sketch artist at Universal Studios, designer, and she was influential in the design of the creature, which went through a lot of different versions that were not really very good until they hit on the final one, which was very good. So it was Millicent Patrick. It was a guy named Chris Mueller who did most of the sculpting. He sculpted the head primarily, but he was like in charge of the sculpting there at Universal. And a guy named Jack Keevan was a makeup artist, and he was in charge of the overall construction of the suit. Have Bud Westmore, who was the head of the makeup department at Universal Studios, and who for many years basically took all the credit for Creature from the Black Lagoon. And to get to Millicent, Universal Studios sent her out on different publicity tours and TV interviews and newspaper interviews, and she would go to the theaters sometimes where the creature was playing and show artwork, and because she was a very glamorous looking woman and sort of someone, I'm sure Universal liked the Beauty and the Beast kind of idea. Bud Westmore did not like that at all. He didn't want anybody to know about anybody else except him. He was the kind of guy who would come in, and you'll see pictures of Chris Mueller's beautiful sculpture of the head and Bud there with a sculpting tool, or a finished foam mask and he's got a paintbrush. He was notorious for, when there was nobody in the shop, coming in or just coming in and grabbing a tool and standing there. It's kind of a joke among effects people now that if somebody like does a Bud Westmore kind of thing, which happens a lot. It's happened. I've seen it happen. He actually, when Millicent Patrick was doing that, Bud Westmore hated it so much he fired her. got rid of her from Universal Studios. Yeah.
Just because she was like
So,
going to these events or
just
galas
because he was
or
jealous,
whatever.
you know. He felt that she wasn't promoting him enough. And the publicity people, I have a book that has letters back and forth. The publicity people are saying, like, don't do that. You shouldn't do that to, you know, Miss Patrick. She did nothing except, you know, push your name and, you know, always gave credit to everybody. But it's out of her control how it's edited and how it's written in the newspaper and things like that. It's not that she didn't say it. It's just not in the article. It's not her fault. But Westmore didn't care, and he just got rid of her. He just didn't like that she was getting the publicity.
No.
So, pretty petty move. Yeah.
Well, there
but
were
speaking of
other times, no?
Oh, go ahead.
No. I was just thinking about, like, I don't know if, well, this is probably something just way different from the topic we are saying, but it's like you say that, and I feel like, well, it was probably some other times where women were almost like, aha, exactly. But then I'm like,
It was a different time for women to be working in that field and being allowed to do more and more things. But being that petty and being that much of a jerk, that happens forever.
Yeah, totally.
Because I worked on a movie, and they were doing the makeup test. It was a very famous movie. I'll tell you guys off the air.
Okay.
And they did a makeup test on the actor. Very famous movie, made hundreds of millions of dollars. The makeup artist that was doing the makeup is not the guy who ran the company. The guy who ran the company had his head photoshopped onto the body of the makeup artist, so it looked like he was doing the makeup. Because the guy running the company wasn't a makeup artist, but he wanted to be involved. So, and this was, I don't know, like 10 years ago. So it happens all the time. It's Hollywood, you know. It's bullshit.
Wow.
But before we go back, real briefly, I just want to say, I got to meet Chris Mueller when I was a kid in L.A. when I was working for Rick Baker. Rick introduced him. It's like, this is Chris Mueller, and he was just, you know, this nice old man. And it's like, Chris Mueller. It's like, why do I know that name? And Rick's like, he's sculpted the creature from the Black Lagoon. And it was so cool. And then one day, I was at Rick Baker's shop, and for some reason it was just me and him. I don't remember where everybody else was, but it was right after American Werewolf in London, and John Landis, the director of Werewolf, was going to do Creature from the Black Lagoon remake. And for years and years, everybody's tried to remake it. Nobody has. But John was going to do it, and he wanted Rick to make the creature. And so Rick called up Jack Keevan, who was still alive, and had Jack Keevan come over to the shop, the guy who was in charge of building the suit. And he came and talked to us for like an hour or something, all about how the suit was put together, how it was made, how difficult it was. Because Rick, not that we were going to follow, I mean, it didn't happen, but not that we were going to follow how they did it in 1954, but just really out of nostalgia, out of curiosity, that it's just like, we loved Creature from the Black Lagoon. It's like, we could talk to the guy that actually built it. And it was just fascinating, you know, to have him talking about it, you know.
Wow, cool. Qué padre.
And because also you have to think, 1954, there were not a lot of foam rubber suits, especially that swam in the water, being made then. Now foam rubber suits are like very common. There's been millions of them, too many to even try to name. That it's like a very commonplace thing in Hollywood for shops to be able to make foam rubber suits, you know. But back then, it was a brand new kind of thing, and it was, you know, only a few years after Universal even switched to using foam latex, you know, that they were using Jack Pierce build-up makeups in the early 1940s for the Wolfman, and you know, all those, you know, in the 30s with Frankenstein and the Mummy and all that. So, it was a lot of research and development that had to go into building that suit. So it was just really awesome to talk to the guy. To talk to Jack Keevan.
So that's what you're going to talk about us today? How they build the whole suit and all that?
Well, I mean, okay. Yeah, I mean, not every detail of it, but okay, when you look at Creature from the Black Lagoon, when you watch that movie, when you finally see the creature show up, if you watch carefully through the movie, there's actually two creatures in the movie. I mean, there's one creature, but there's two suits, two different actors, two different head sculptures. When you see him swimming in the water, it was a guy named Riku Browning, who was in college at the time in Florida, and he was a swimmer, and he worked at Wakala Springs that has crystal clear water. And Universal Studios, the producers, went down there because they were thinking we could shoot here, because with the cameras you could see really far. It's not murky or anything, it's not like trying to shoot in the ocean off of LA. It'd be impossible. It was like a cenote in Mexico. It's like clear water. And Riku Browning was a kid that swam there and gave tours and worked at these springs. And so he was their tour guide, just this kid. And they went back to LA and they called him up and it's like, would you be interested in coming out and being the monster in the movie? And he's like, yeah, sure. So they flew him out, did his body molds and everything. He's the creature that you see swimming all the time. When the creature gets out of the water, when he climbs up onto the boat, when he walks on the land, when he carries Julie Adams into the cave at the end, all that was a guy named Ben Chapman, who was bigger. He was taller. They needed a bigger guy compared to the actors to interact with them. He had his own whole different suit and whole different head. The head sculpture was slightly different. The eyes were the real giveaway because the water one had just like swimming goggles, just flat lenses. But the out of the water, the land suit had really cool kind of fish eyes put in there. And that's the one you see when he's walking on the deck of the boat and he's kind of gulping for air and his gills are pulsating. And it's just two bladders, two balloons inside. But it looks really cool. Another way you could tell is that the suit that they had, they only did one sculpture of everything except for the head. So there are like blocks, these plates of scales on the body, like segmented. There's an extra one in the middle. There's like 3 on Ben Chapman's suit, and Riku's has 2 because they just had to make it wider. So you could tell the 2 costumes apart. But you really have to be looking for it. You have to be like studying details. Otherwise, you won't notice it. Because when I was a kid, I never knew it's just a creature, But then later, it's like studying it, looking at pictures. It's like, how come he looks different, like in these shots? And I don't know why they wouldn't be exact, because that's the whole point of sculpting and making molds is that you have continuity. I don't know why they sculpted the 2 heads. Maybe the size was too big to deal with, the size difference. But if you watch carefully, you can see that there's 2.
Okay.
Yes, I noticed that.
Yeah.
I was like, why? And it makes a whole new sense to have one for the takes that are underwater and the ones that are in land.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, if Riku was a bigger guy, because they needed somebody, obviously, that could swim for a long time, hold their breath for a long time underwater. If he was just bigger, that he could have done both. But, they ended up that they just needed 2 guys to play it. And they did end up shooting some stuff in Universal Studios and some stuff in Florida simultaneously. So I think Ben Chapman was doing the stuff in Universal on the boat, on the back lot. Because all the stuff with the boat was just a back lot of Universal Studios. They had a big kind of lagoon set there. And for years and years and years, it was a big lake. It's probably just a parking lot or an office building now. But when I was a kid, when I went there, it still existed. And then Riku was shooting the Florida stuff at the same time. So it made sense for that.
Nice. So, and this is just for the first movie, no?
Just for the first one, yeah. Because when you see the second one, Revenge of the Creature, Ben Chapman wasn't in that one. It was a guy named Tom Hennessy and John Lamb. Yeah, a guy named John Lamb was another actor. They were both the same size. They played the creature on the land, and Riku Browning came back and played the creature swimming. In fact, he played the creature swimming in all three of the movies. So Tom Hennessy is the new creature, and what they did for him was they resculpted the whole suit, because the original creature was like a body sculpture, the hand sculptures, the feet, the heads. But then they had to mix and match for the two different actors, and there were many separate molds that were then assembled, sometimes on the actors themselves. They just stood there while they were gluing pieces together. This time they did a big body sculpture and a giant two-piece mold off of that. And they resculpted the head, so he has a whole new head, which I don't like at all. I do not understand why they changed the design. It's like very round this time, and he has like big bug eyes. So you could tell. I mean, it's the creature from the Black Lagoon, but he looks very different than the first one. It's nowhere near as good as the original sculpture. But it was to simplify the production, the construction of the suits, make it easier to get in and out of, just so filming would go faster.
Okay. Yeah, I have here a picture with the 3 different designs, I believe.
Okay.
So, yeah, this is like it's the one you sent me that has 3 different, like, it's green.
Yeah, that's the land. I think it's the land mask, the swimming mask, and then one of the original designs that has kind of a pointed, more like longer pointed head. That there are pictures of the whole suit was done, and they were still trying that head. So you can see it's the creature's body, but with that kind of pointy head on, and they finally just gave up. That was nowhere good as the other one. Which I don't know why they didn't figure that out faster. I mean, it's nowhere near as cool looking.
Yeah. And
I know.
I like more the one in the middle.
So that's the swimming. You like the swimming mask the best. Oh, okay. Yeah, see, I like the land mask the best.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I also like the middle one.
See.
Okay. Because the shots where he's on the boat and when he's holding his hands up and you can see the zippers, or when he's climbing over the deck, I just think that looks so cool. It's just such a good design to me. It's so strong. The swimming one is cool too, but my favorite is the land mask.
This movie.
And it's beautiful. I'm sorry.
No. You say it.
It's beautiful how the swimming suit is just so nice, how it glides through the water. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it looks like a dance. It's amazing how you don't feel the suit.
Yeah, and they said, Riku in interviews said it was a little bit strange at first, like trying to swim with like an overcoat on or something, but they got it down that it was very tight fitting, and he said with the feet were built over flippers and you could pull because you had the webbed hands. He said it was really easy, ended up being very easy to swim in, and they were able to figure out like to try to get a neutral buoyancy, because you're covered with foam latex. You get in the water, at first you're like a big sponge just floating on it, but then after a while you're a big sponge. You start absorbing all the water.
So this makes me think that they had to actually build or make a design for the whole suit, like how he was going to be able to get in the water and also like breathe, and please don't die suit.
Right.
Well, he actually didn't have to breathe. He only need to. He didn't use any tank or oxygen. He only,
Yeah, no, he just like observed, or I don't know how to say, like, and then he was like doing, but even like that, because there is a picture here where they are giving him like the no, and he's underwater and he's still like doing it.
Yeah, there would be divers just like right outside a frame, and he said that he would just, if he couldn't do it anymore, he would just go limp, and that was the signal to come give me air. And they would swim in really fast and just give him the hose of air, and he'd just breathe in, and then it's like, okay, keep going.
Yes.
Which is crazy, but it's like it worked,
So basically,
but that's why you can see little bubbles coming up out of his head in some shots, like because he's like breathing out of the tube, and it's like would fill up inside, and then the air would go through the foam latex, and there'd be like a little string of bubbles going up.
So basically, the first the first suit, it's what, just like fabric, and then they glued some pieces.
Well, the first one was more hand built. Those suits, one at a time, to get however many they needed for Riku and however many they needed for Ben Chapman. The sequel was a complete new sculpture and new molds and everything, and they were just big foam suits run over, like probably some sort of fabric to keep it strong, like we do nowadays.
So just one piece, two pieces, like front and back, and then that's it?
Well, there's a body cast inside.
Yeah, I know that, but it's like they took, or they had.
I believe so, that they were just big body pieces. They might have broken them down a little bit more, like upper torso and legs, maybe. So there might have been like upper torso with arms and then 2 legs. I saw those molds at Universal Studios when I went out there once. Rick Baker took me on a tour when they still had the makeup department, and they still had Creature from the Black Lagoon molds. Wow. Laying around. You could tell from the texture, there's the sculpture inside the negative, but I think it was basically just 2 big molds.
You should have just took one. If they were going to destroy everything,
and then they just
take it home.
Luckily, there are pieces floating around still. I know the out of the water head. There are people have latex and polyfoam copies and then made molds off of that, so that they're like a couple of generations removed from the original molds, so the detail is maybe a little bit less, but they're copies. And I know that there's copies of the feet exist, and so people did make pulls and made molds, made copies, and gave them to friends, sold them or whatever. So some of the stuff still does exist,
Wow.
from those molds, but yeah, they just figured after a while they were going to get rid of the makeup department anyways, and it's like, we got all these molds in here, let's just throw them out, which is just so sad.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and then yes.
No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No,
now
that we have the first one. Then we have already talked a little bit of the second one, which I believe you said you don't like that much the design of the second one, no?
I like
different.
the movie. The movie's cool, but yeah, it doesn't look as good. I mean, there are some shots where it looks okay, but it's just, and he does cool stuff. There's a lot of action scenes with the suit, and it's very violent. He picks a guy up and throws him through the air. And it's a big wire rig where the guy goes like 12 feet through the air and hits a tree trunk. It's pretty violent for the time. But then we have the third one we talk about real quick, where it's a really crazy story where, again, they hear that the creature is still alive. They go to South America. They find him. There's an accident and the creature's lit on fire. He's very badly burned, so they bring him back to Florida or somewhere, and the movie is very slow, and it's like an affair is happening between the scientist's wife and one of the guys that works there, like real soap opera. But anyways, Creature, he's all wrapped up in bandages from his burns. He starts to recover. They take the bandages off, and he's changed. And what's happened is, because of the fire, it's burned off all his outer layer of skin, and somehow he's evolved into this air breathing. He's made an evolutionary step for no reason whatsoever other than he got hurt. And so they give him like this big suit kind of to wear to protect his skin, and he becomes this kind of a Frankenstein-like creature that's at the end and rips the place up and kills everybody, and then wanders back into the ocean again. But this time when he goes, at the end of each movie, you think he's dead and he's in the ocean and he's either sinking, but evidently he didn't die. This time he goes into the ocean, but he can't breathe the water anymore. So it's kind of like maybe that's it for him. And he's changed. Nobody wanted to see this new creature anyways, so.
No, I don't like it.
I guess they figured not a fourth one. But
no, the design isn't pretty, and it's
no,
silly.
it's bizarre. I sculpted masks of both of them, the original one and the Creature Walks Among Us version, just because I was fascinated with the stuff and trying to copy that weird look that it had. The third one had. That just as a kid interested me, but looking at it now, I was kind of surprised that it's like that's very strange looking. But yeah, that one, if you fast forward kind of to the end, there are some really cool stunts and scenes where he smashes up the house and kills the people and things like that. But the movie itself is pretty tedious to watch.
Why do you think, well, I have the opinion, but I want to hear yours. Why do you think this movie particularly went through time that much, and a lot of people got inspired? You think it's because of the story, because of because of the design, because of the complexity of creating it, because of
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, the story, and to go back to the story of Creature from the Black Lagoon, they go down there, they find him. There's on and off kind of battles back and forth. He attacks them, they try to attack him. The story is basically King Kong, where they go find to a remote, primitive place. They find this last surviving prehistoric creature and want to capture him, in which they do in Revenge of the Creature. They actually catch him and bring him to Florida and put him in SeaWorld. But it's basically that. And like King Kong, like every good movie monster, there's always a beautiful girl around somewhere, and the monster sees her, and it's like, I like you. King Kong falls in love, creature falls in love, so there was nothing really groundbreaking with that, but the design of the suit, like Gabrielle, you were saying with the swimming, is almost where he's sort of touching her, and Universal was very squeamish about that, just that it wasn't too overtly sexual what he was doing, and she's swimming with the bathing suit. It's like violence was okay, but it's like, don't get too carried away with the romance part.
Yeah.
But I think, and we'll talk about guys like Guillermo del Toro, who grew up with this stuff too, and it's like, what if, like, his spin on the movie, which also, I think, obviously he's seen all of them, because Revenge of the Creature is kind of like what happens when you catch one of these things, and you bring it somewhere, and just that old-fashioned attitude that if you caught King Kong, you caught this incredible creature, or you found it, like, what do you do? Well, let's catch it, chain it up, and then bring it to Broadway, and we'll charge people to come stare at it. And Revenge of the Creature, we found this amazing thing. Like, what do we do with it? Let's put him in SeaWorld and then try to tame it and train it to do tricks and things like that. It's such an old-fashioned, we look at it now, it's such an antiquated kind of notion of what to do with, animals in circuses and zoos in general. But, like, if you found something that incredible, and that's what Del Toro his spin on all of that, which, when they catch the guy.
And I think it's not old-fashioned. I mean, it's whatever every scientist wants to do. whenever they found something that they don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we found this thing, and now we are going to study it. We are going to kill it. We are going to take advantage of it. So
Right.
I think, and at some point, the story is the one that has been repeating through history, and also the design.
Mm-hmm.
The design, I think, it will keep on going, and maybe some other movie maker or maybe another makeup artist will keep on adding something, because it's pretty amazing.
It is, and to think that was done, in 1954, again, when, not a lot of foam latex. Mm-hmm. I don't think any foam latex bodysuits have been made. And just the overall design, which is a very difficult thing to do on a person, to make them look reptilian or amphibian without it being, really cartoony. To give it, it had an elegance to it, and it was very sleek. And overall, you can find pictures of it where it's wrinkled funny, or it's, it doesn't look its best, but overall it's an amazing job. And it's hard to beat it, for just being so bold to do something like that, and it's like, let's just dress a guy up in a rubber suit, and it's like, it better be a good one.
Yes.
And also the movement in land, it's amazing, because they ask the actor to glide,
mm-hmm.
instead of walking, just glide, and they put some heavy weight onto
mm-hmm.
the ankles, so he just glide.
Yeah, because you have to think too, like, if he was just walking with if you had flippers on and you're walking, and they must have looked at it, and it's like, nah, that's ridiculous. Like just kind of glide your feet,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks cool when he's on the boat walking,
Yeah.
But there's also, I loved with the creature, there's a lot of power implied behind it. Like, he was a very, very strong being. Like, when they catch him in the net in the water, and it's just thrashing, and it's ripping the ropes down, and it's just like, this thing is like just really super strong, and he could just reach in and grab your face and crush your head and pick you up and throw you, and there's just like a lot of power behind it. I really love that about it.
Yes. I was just starting with the poster of The Shape of Water, because you mentioned Del Toro. And
mm-hmm.
well, it's just like exactly what we are saying, no? With the inspiration and why this creature had inspired a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Not also Del Toro, no, but also like some others, like with other movies, no, the Destination, or the
there was Destination.
Blancas.
Well, like, Monster Squad had, Frankenstein and Dracula and the Mummy, and it had a Creature from the Black Lagoon. There was a lot of other things, like Destination Inner Space. They had this fish monster, and he actually has this bizarre body shape, a big humpback with a big fin, and like an oversized head with a big piranha mouth. But he's wearing an air tank, an aqualung in back, and that's why they just built the suit over the aqualung, so he has like a big strange shape to him.
I think that one looks amazing.
See,
I really like the design of that.
I always liked it. It was just kind of cool. It had like big long arms, and I always thought that was kind of cool. There's other ones like Monster of Pedras Blancas that Jack Keevan built, which the design isn't that strong, and it was also, that was very, very low budget. He took hands from Universal Studios. There was a movie called The Mole People, and he took some of the foam rubber hands. And there was a movie called This Island Earth with this big mutant, the big brain head, and he had like kind of weird bug feet. And he took the feet for that, and they just kind of put all these different pieces together and made a new head, and that was his monster. Because Jack Keevan produced Monster of Pedras Blancas, and he put the suit together. And so I don't know if he kind of borrowed some things from the makeup department, or I don't know what. But yeah, I mean, some are successful, some are not so successful. But there's a lot of influence. But there's a lot of influence story-wise too from Creature from the Black Lagoon, even beyond the King Kong kind of aspect to it. If you watch, like, Anaconda is Creature from the Black Lagoon. If you remember that story, it's basically almost the exact same thing, just not as fun. But yeah, I mean, however many pictures, if you want to show, I'd sent you a bunch of different creatures over the years.
Yes, I have them.
I think you did an amazing work, because I didn't need to send her any other picture.
Okay, yeah, good.
You just got us covered with that.
See?
Well, like I said, this was one of the movies, I was obsessed with when I was a kid. So, it's like, I just searched through, like, everything that I know that's related to it,
Yeah, suddenly, like, with the messenger, it was like, click, 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 click. It was like, okay, that's Kevin. With all the pictures. Well, just so to mention this very also nice and complicated design of Del Toro, I have here some pictures. Well, he started first with to work on the design with Sapiens from Hellboy. That was his first, like, attempt to do or something like Creature of the Black Lagoon. And then from there he started to make, like, a very most complicated design for The Shape of Water. And when he was doing Hellboy, he had already the idea of filming one day The Shape of Water, no? So, and I believe he did pretty good. It's different in the way that Sapiens, I think it's thinner and more, like, delicate than the Creature of the Black Lagoon, which I think Creature of the Black Lagoon, which is more like with these shapes, like the shapes for the creature, it's harder, no?
Yeah, there's more angles to the shoulders. Yeah, the texture is rougher. I mean, it's a more aggressive design. Abe Sapien he's an intellectual fish man, so it's much smoother. A lot more streamlined, a lot more delicate looking.
And for me, it's more. Yeah, okay, so the design and the shapes are, like, super cool, but for me the colors are the part that is most important for me, because also with the creature in Shape of Water, I think also the color, the shapes are nice, but the colors for me and the eyes that looks more like glass. It's for me, like, the thing that can be different from Creature of the Black Lagoon. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, again, like the land suit for Creature from the Black Lagoon, he had cool looking fish eyes, but now the technology is advanced, to refine and make these things so much nicer that, the Shape of Water suit, the eyes really good. I mean, everything is, technically cleaner and better than Creature. Plus, you can mix different materials, so you could have more translucent pieces. Where the Creature from the Black Lagoon is all foam latex. That's it. And Shape of Water, you could mix in. I don't know what they did. It looks like silicone pieces were on top of foam pieces, and
Yeah,
so that you could paint it to have translucency.
All the fins are amazing because of the translucency they have.
Yeah.
And also that they used, like, UV pigments, so it can read in very poor lighting, and they glow in the dark. And also probably a system with LEDs underneath I don't know if they had them, because they start shining throughout the whole skin, and that looks amazing. That's in the sequence when she already has him in the bathtub.
Right. Yeah, I know they did augment it with digital in some scenes, like to make the eyes open bigger or make his mouth open wider. Like when he sees the guy's cat, yeah, and he like reacts to it, and so that was like enhanced with digital. But I think there was only a couple of shots where he's underwater that was 100% digital. Everything else is either just the suit or the suit with a little bit of enhancement to it. So pretty amazing.
And also I love, because you said because of the scene of the cat, I love how the gills just pop up and start shaking. They are amazing. Right. I remember the dinosaur in Jurassic Park when I saw that.
Yeah. Yeah, he uses like his gills almost as like to show his emotions, kind of. Mm-hmm. You know, they'll flare out or they'll shake or they'll kind of move. And I know they enhanced that too. There were actual mechanisms to do it, but you know, you can only get stuff to do so much within a shot. So they, instead of making multiple sets and having to cut or whatever, they would just digitally enhance that a little bit. Mm-hmm. So pretty nice. And you can't really tell anymore, you know, that anything's been changed. It's so the digital stuff is so good now. Like when you compare back to even like I Am Legend or something, where it's just, you know, it's so horrible looking, and now it's gotten to a point for the most part where it's so good that it's like you can't tell, you know, it's just like magic, you know, you can't tell what you're looking at.
And also because you are not adding a lot of stuff. I mean, you're only
just
enhancing little things, so right. That's why it's just so well blended.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, and I'm sure Del Toro, having grown up loving monsters, and it's like his idea now as a grown man, it's like, what if in The Creature from the Black Lagoon, say, for instance, the monster falls in love with a girl, like what would happen if the girl falls back in love with the monster? You know, it's like there you go, there's a story.
It's the Beauty and the Beast.
See.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. And it's, you know, and what if, and specifically if it was the, you know, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, and, you know, he got captured and there was this sad, lonely girl who, you know, the creature kind of falls in love with her, but almost more, she falls in love with him and he just doesn't understand at first. It's almost kind of reversed a little bit. You know, he doesn't trust her and he's kind of afraid, and, you know.
It's the Beauty and the Beast, but also what I really like about this story is that both of them, in their own ways and in their own like universe or worlds, are different, but different and special, you know? And that's why they communicate different, and this is what makes a different story. Like the whole point of these chats that we are having is like to express that you can have one idea or one design, like Creature from the Black Lagoon, and then you can just add your own way of seeing life or your way of, like, you know, and that's just like with this little thing you can just make things different, and I would say like appropriate your own story, and then and that's what sometimes for artists or for creators or for people that works in this industry, it's what it's still like sometimes they are missing that, because now we are so used to just Google something and we find it, and then it's like, okay, I'll take that reference, and then we just go direct to a design or just to create something, but we don't go further anymore. Like, what if I change a little bit this, no? Or what if I and it's something that I think Del Toro does, no?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he was, you know, we talk about inspiration every week. He was obviously very much inspired by Creature and just his original spin on it. But yeah, there's far too few innovative theory, like we talked about Rob Bottin's design for the darkness in Legend. And it's like, it's going to make him, he'd be like the devil. And, Rob, it's like, okay, well, he's going to, have horns on his head. But Rob's idea is like, let's make him like the ultimate devil, and just be bold with your designing, with your thinking, like we were saying with the creature, that was a pretty bold move to, in 1954 to try to accomplish that. It'd be tough, even up to, fairly recently to make a full foam suit, Like again, now it's pretty standard. It's not that big of a deal. We've got it all, figured out. But back then, it's, there's a lot to gamble on, to make a movie around. But even going back further to do like King Kong, the original King Kong, we're going to take puppets and stop motion animation. We've only had sound for a couple of years, but we're going to make this incredible epic adventure movie, with these puppets. And, what a gamble that was, and it came out to be like one of the most famous movies ever made,
And it's also like a lot of work, like in every. It's also like to think that there is not one person that does it, no? But it's also like a group of people that work together and then they become with an idea. And in this particular case with Shape of Water, I'm not sure if the company that did it was Spectral.
It was Legacy, no?
Spectral Motion.
No, Legacy did Shape of Water.
Ah, okay.
Spectral Motion did Ape Sapien.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was also with
and Legacy. I thought it was too until I researched today's talk. I'd forgotten that Legacy did it. I thought Spectral did it. And Legacy used to be Stan Winston's shop. That Stan did Jurassic Park and Terminator, all those things.
And then from Spectral Motion is the guys that also Del Toro used their names for the strain.
Oh yeah.
With those guys. Okay. Well, I don't know if we have one more topic about this creature. I was joking a little bit when I suggested, but I think I should mention it before we finish our talk. And it's this Mexican movie we have here. It's Chabelo y Pepito contra los monstruos. Which I don't know if you saw it, Kevin, but you were.
I saw the trailer on YouTube. I couldn't find the whole thing.
I couldn't find it either.
How when the creature from the Black Lagoon shows up, it's like they've dubbed in a woman's scream. It sounds like for his voice. I don't know if it's a woman screaming but it looks like it's him screaming.
It's because it's not like an actual like scary movie. It's more like because this character Chabelo here in Mexico is more like a comedian.
Right. Okay.
So they tried to do something like scary and like to use like the mummies or the.
It's more like a parody.
See,
well,
exactly.
It sounds like there was a movie in 1948 called Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, and Abbott and Costello was a comedy team, very very popular in the 1940s, and that was at the end of. Well, it was the end of the 40s, but it was kind of the end of Universal Studios doing the Frankenstein movies, and Frankenstein meets the Wolfman meets, Dracula together. And so in that movie, Bud Abbott and Lou Costello run into Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Wolfman, and Bela Lugosi, Lon Chaney Jr., and Glenn Strange is the Frankenstein monster. So it sounds kind of like they were doing that sort of a thing.
But
so it's like
more or less like that, yeah.
Like funny and scary at the same time.
Yes, and also, well, I know it's not the best suit. Of course, we can't compare it with the with the
No, because
original one.
it looks like they started with this, like just cloth, and then put some scales on the front. But it's like whatever.
But for that time, and I was trying to make a little research to see if I could find who did it, like who fabricated it, because I think it's a very good bad imitation.
Yeah. I mean, it's for what it is. It's fine. You get what it is. I mean, they got it far enough along that it's like look, a Creature from the Black Lagoon guy. It's not like you look at it and go like, what the hell is that? Like I can't even. You know what it's supposed to be. So it's like, okay.
Exactly. That's what I mean. And for like, if you see all the movies, the Mexican movies, trying to have some character or suits, more like the character or the suits for FX. It's been so difficult, I think, for us to get really good to work until now, that we are like our generation. I can say that now, like our generation of like my colleagues, we have been working a lot to go to other countries to like really get better and try to maybe I don't want to say this word, but like to compete or to get to the same level, no? But back then we just got like the movies from Hollywood, and it was like, oh man, that how they do that, no? And they were just like, it was like a total secret.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's how it was when I was a kid, and I lived in Connecticut.
But
on the East Coast, there was no information, there was no internet, I didn't know what anything was made out of. So I can empathize with them that it was like, what? Let's make that. It's like, okay, how? It's like, I don't know.
Yes, but it's not the same.
Exactly.
Because Mexico. I don't know how can we explain this to you, but we didn't even have the right people that actually did special effects. I mean, they were doing films, but that's that.
Right.
And all the people that did probably the backgrounds were the ones that were putting together these kind of costume.
Yeah, the art department would do it. I'm just talking about me personally as a little kid, like with no information. I have sympathy for feeling like helpless like that, that it's like, I want to do it. I want to do this so badly, but I have no idea how to even start.
And then you had it in US, and we were like watching a complete generation watch the movies and saw them, and they were already doing it in LA or already doing it in US, and we were like starting to think about how that things were done. So it was like so ahead, no? And also the other important thing here is that the stories in Mexican movies were more like for like guns and I don't know, like the poor or the rich or politics. It like the stories with like fantasy or I don't know, some topics like that. They wouldn't even care to give money for that kind of movies, no?
Right. Well, I mean,
that was the Mexican way of doing movies, and Gabriel would probably know more than me or whatever. But that's how I know Mexican cinematography was, no?
Yeah, actually, we only did a lot of movies about our costumes, our culture, our way of living, or how the Mexican family worked. So all these things about fantasy, sci-fi, action movies. For crying out loud, our action movies were about rancheros. So, they were more Western-like, than fantasy or sci-fi.
Well, because they're easier to do. You can get access to guns and cars, and costumes, and
Exactly.
that's it. But to actually to do special effects is like requires a special skills and knowledge and materials that it was basically Hollywood for a long time, like only Hollywood.
So my point,
and a lot of it was very secretive too.
Yeah, so my point with this Pepito and Chabelo and the monsters is that even though it's like probably if people Mexican our Mexican colleagues or the people that is going to see it from Mexico will laugh about it like why, but no, it's something that it's really like I don't know how to say it, like
our history.
Yeah, and it's to be proud, or I would be like, okay, somebody actually tried to do it.
They tried,
and that's something.
It has its own charm to it.
Well, actually, I have a very good news for you, Elisa, that wanted precisely something that had special effects and was a scary movie. It wasn't a parody, it was a scary movie, though because of these cheap and not too cool special effects. In 1958, it was Castillo de los Monstruos. It was the first one in Mexico that appeared a creature that it's more or less the creature of the Black Lagoon.
Okay.
That's the first one.
Okay.
But I couldn't find a lot of information. I couldn't find the movie, which is absurd. But yeah, Mexico. That's the only thing I could say. Mexico doesn't distribute their own cinema, and it's a pain in the ass to locate a lot of movies if they are not like very famous movies.
But you've seen it.
I've seen clips of it.
Okay.
And I'm actually researching a lot of it because you started mentioning me that you wanted to have this play between special effects from the US and special effects from Mexico. And actually, I'm doing a lot of research, but it's difficult too. And another good, what's that? Castillo. Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
That's actually the one. And also another good news is that there's a makeup artist here in Mexico that is planning to open a museum for special effects makeup about Mexico, only Mexico.
Nice.
So yeah, that's what I researched for you, and it was a surprise.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank you. I want to hug you, but I'm so far away.
Hug your camera. I will hug you.
Yes, thank you, Gabriel. Yeah, for me it's really interesting, and like just talking about that, our history of the special effects in Mexico, which I said, like already said, it's not too like huge or as complex as the one in the States, no? But probably that's why I like that much, and I always try to how to say, inspire maybe, or to talk about these things. So we all, because like it's really rich that we have Kevin and then you, Gabriel, and then we can combine or mix these different ways of thinking or of doing, or that you learn as like somehow Kevin, and then we learned from you, and then we can have just this different mix of ideas, no? So I don't know, it just makes me happy.
Well, and just what you were saying before about people being inspired by things, it's impossible not to, be inspired as an artist if you're a writer or a musician or makeup effects. Hopefully you're always original, but even if you do your spin on something that you've seen, like Del Toro with Shape of Water, and Creature from the Black Lagoon. But yeah, you can't help but be inspired by, all the amazing work that's out there. And, again, just put your spin on it, keep it original to you, true to you. So.
That's the perfect ending of our video. Keep it true to you. Okay, guys. Well, I think we can leave it here unless you want to mention something else.
I didn't think we'd get to all of this. I guess we did talk for a while.
Yeah. It's always like, maybe just 45 minutes, just to make it not super long. And then we end up talking 1 hour, then sometimes 1 hour and a half.
I guess we should mention, though, that because we're mentioning the actors who played the creature and all, and Don McGowan was an actor who played the creature in the third movie when he's burned and different. But we should mention Doug Jones because he was Abe Sapien in Hellboy and the creature in Shape of Water. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which were difficult things to wear, I'm sure. Even if it's a foam latex suit, that's still a lot of foam latex to be wearing, and to be inside all day long.
Yes.
And 4 hours, no? For them to apply all the makeup?
I believe it's 4 hours for Sapien, but what I read is that with all the mechanism that they actually designed, for the Shape of Water, they reduced it to 2 hours.
It's better.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's improvement.
It sounds like a long time to get into a suit, but a suit that good without anything really to hide, it's not a gorilla suit where you can get into it in like 30 minutes maybe and then brush it all out and everything is snapped and zipped. In about a half an hour you're in and okay. But a suit like that, it's like 2 hours sounds about right.
See, I'm trying to.
2 hours is fast.
Yeah.
See, I had here the picture. I will just have to add it later, but it's like with all the mechanism that he has in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 2 hours is okay.
I don't know why they switched from Spectral to Legacy, but I guess who did the Strain series makeups? Do you remember?
Legacy, I think.
Was it Legacy?
No, I don't remember.
Because they shot Shape of Water while they were doing the Strain. Like in between, like when they would go on hiatus, they would shoot scenes. Because he had used Spectral, Del Toro had used Spectral for a few movies, and that's why I just assumed that they did it for Shape of Water.
Yes.
Not Legacy.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I'm trying to look for it, but I think it's gonna take more than.
Okay. All right.
Okay, guys. Well,
right.
let's finish here. Thank you so much. This one was one of my favorites, I think, and always a pleasure to share with you some ideas and thoughts.
It was great. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Gabrielle. I hope I didn't just babble too much about Creature from the Black Lagoon. But
no, it's okay.
No, it was amazing.
I've been waiting all my life to tell all my nerd knowledge about the Creature from the Black Lagoon.
I knew it. Okay.
Oh, it was amazing.
It's cool. Thanks.
Well, let's see. Let's watch us again in 2 weeks. and let's start thinking about the other one. This time I'm gonna let you guys to decide.
Okay.
Okay.
2 weeks.
Yes, and because today is 11, the 25.
25?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 9/11. So the 25th.
The 25th, yeah.
On Friday the 25th, we'll do it, and then on Monday the 28th, when I say taco,
Yo
you
digo
say
loco.
I'm being pliant.
Yes. Okay, guys. Well, see you soon.
All right,
I'm gonna say bye, but
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.